Did the San Francisco 49ers put Cameron Latu on notice with this signing of tight end Brock Wright? Now, it's not official yet, but we did get the contract details not too long ago, and it does appear the San Francisco 49ers are going to have a new tight end. And so, what does that mean for the two rookies that the San Francisco 49ers drafted just last year? One in the third, one in the seventh. Who's going to back up George Kittle? Who is going to replace Charlie Warner? And it sounds like it's going to be Brock Wright. But what does that mean for the other tight ends on the roster? We're going to talk about all that right now, but you guys already know what to do. Drop an SDS in the chat, smash that like button, and let's get into it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. All right, I'm sure you guys have already heard the news. The San Francisco 49ers have signed tight end Brock Wright to an offer sheet, and that is because he is a restricted free agent with the Lions. The Lions placed a original round tender on him, which would have paid him roughly around $3 million, but because he was an undrafted free agent, when you place an original round tender on a undrafted free agent, that means the 49ers don't have to give up any draft pick to go and sign Brock Wright. So there's a value there in not having to give up a draft pick, but it was just announced in regards to what the 49ers are going to be paying Brock Wright. And I think we got ourselves a new tight end, because I do not believe that the Lions are going to match this. Not even close. And so what the Lions would have to match is a 3-year, $12 million deal in which Brock Wright has signed, per Dave Burkett. HT Lombardi for putting that on my radar. I don't think that the Lions are going to match that. I would really be surprised, to be honest. This to me makes it feel like it's a slam dunk that Brock Wright is going to be a San Francisco 49er. 3 years, $12 million, when they already have Sam Laporta. They got to pay Amon-Ra St. Brown. Penei Sewell is going to be coming up. Do they need to spend that type of money on a backup tight end? I'm not really sure. So if I was a betting man, I would have to say that Brock Wright is probably going to be a San Francisco 49er. Now, again, we've seen crazier things happen, and there is a range of outcome that does exist where the Lions say, well, we weren't planning on paying Brock Wright a 3-year, $12 million deal, but we value our tight end too, and we definitely don't want him to go to the San Francisco 49ers, for that matter, the team that beat us in the NFC Championship game. So let's not do that. Let's sign him. That could be an option for sure. But the way that this feels is, it definitely feels like Brock Wright is going to be the new 49ers tight end too. As we know, Charlie Warner signed what appears to be an almost identical deal, 3 years, $12 million, with the Atlanta Falcons, and actually left a big hole with his departure, because he was a phenomenal blocker, and he was really able to do and pick up the slack for George Kittle, if George Kittle ever had to go out, or they run 2 tight end sets, any of those things. So this might be your new tight end. And unlike Charlie Warner, who only had 11 receptions throughout his last 4 years, this guy had 7 touchdowns in the last 3 years. So he's definitely more of a receiving threat than Charlie Warner was, but he also is a competent blocker as well. This is a guy that's been on my radar since he's been a rookie. He's been behind Hawkinson. He's now behind Sam Laporta. So, and he'll be behind George Kittle, but obviously we know the 49ers run a lot of two tight end sets, and they use two tight ends quite frequently. So, what does this mean, though, for the existing tight ends that are currently on the roster? The San Francisco 49ers drafted 2 last year, Cameron Latu in the 3rd round and Braden Willis in the 7th round. Only one of those tight ends was on the active roster last season, and that was Braden Willis. So, what does that mean for Cameron Latu? I think if you are taking, obviously, you're not taking Cameron Latu in the 1st round or 2nd round, but a comp 3rd, end of the 3rd, basically an early 4th round pick. We know Kittle was a 5th round pick, so you can find talent and starters in those rounds. And I'm really wondering what this move potentially means for Cameron Latu. Now, again, the 49ers carried upwards of 4 tight ends on the roster, so that very well could be the case this year. So if you signed Brock Wright, you got Kittle, you have Latu, and you have Braden Willis. There's 4. But something tells me they might not be done with Brock right here with Brock Wright, and they might still draft a tight end as well. I don't know. I don't know what the future is going to hold for Cameron Latu. As you guys know, he really did have a hard time in his first rookie training camp. Just really dropped a lot of things that came his way. It just didn't feel like he was acclimating well. Now, obviously, he could make a switch and something can flip and he could be ready to go. And I think anyone would hope that would be the case because obviously you don't want to burn a 3rd round draft pick. But I think that this definitely doesn't build confidence in what Latu could be, and if they ever plan on using Latu. So I think this very well could be a make or break training camp for Cameron Latu. I mean, we've seen the San Francisco 49ers move off 3rd round draft picks pretty quickly. So that's never really been an issue. They've been willing to move off. They moved off Trey Sermon after 1 year. They moved off TDP after 2 years, or I would say a year and a half. I think they cut him. They released him mid-season last year, brought him back to the practice squad. He is now a Philadelphia Eagle, both former 3rd round draft picks. Who else? Danny Gray spent all of last year on injured reserve, and same as Cameron Latu. So you talk about players that are in a make or break season. I definitely would say that Latu, Danny Gray are kind of in that same boat. So the hope is that they come out and they can really put up a good training camp and show that they deserve to be on the roster. I don't think anyone wants to see these guys flame out, but I think we do understand that it is a potential outcome. It's why the draft is a crapshoot. You never really know. The draft is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So I do think it's interesting, though, how this could be a signal that, those 2 guys aren't at that level yet. And again, this guy's been a tight end too since I believe he was an undrafted free agent. as a rookie. I mean, he had 17 targets, 12 receptions as a rookie, 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's not bad for a rookie standard, playing behind TJ Hawkinson at the time, who's considered a top 5 tight end, I would say. And then he had 4 touchdowns in 2022, and then in 2023 it was the Sam Laporta show, and Laporta absolutely balled out. So like I said, though, there's still a chance that the Detroit Lions say, you know what, you can't have him. We weren't going to pay him anything close to this. We were comfortable paying him the $3 million, but you know what, we don't want that. We'll take him for the 3 years, 12 million. We'll bump his salary up to 4, and we'll take the long-term deal just to keep him out of the 49ers' hands. So we'll see. We'll see. To me, it feels like he could absolutely be a Niner. There is a chance he could return to the Lions. But I think with the 49ers making these moves, I think I don't know if they're necessarily comfortable moving forward with Latu, and maybe just Willis behind George Kittle. So what would really be fascinating is if the Lions matched. In that scenario, the Lions matching, uh, saying not so fast, Niners. then what? Then where do the 49ers go at tight end? Do they go try to get some other free agents out there? Do they turn to the draft again? If there's anything that I know about watching this 49ers offensive scheme, is that, man, you want guys who understand what it takes to block in this league at minimum. Obviously, if you can catch as well, that's a positive. But at minimum, you got to be able to block as a tight end too. So we shall definitely see what that holds. Mike says, or maybe Ross Dwelley, he was injured most of the year. I don't think he was injured most of the year. I just really don't think he played. I think, again, Charlie Warner had solidified himself as tight end 2. I remember, the year prior, it was Tyler Kroft kind of in and out as the tight end 2. But Warner really solidified himself this past season as that guy. I can't really even think of too many times that Ross Dwelley played. I can look it up right now. How many games did he play in? So he made some appearances, but he only played in 7. He only had 76 total snaps. So it definitely would have been his least amount of snaps since he entered the league in 2018 as an undrafted free agent. So Dwelley was ramping up. Dwelley really, I thought, had a huge chance at being the tight end 2 for the 49ers, especially after the 2019 season. He played 378 snaps in 19, and then 2020 he played 500 snaps, and then it's been a decline since then. I thought Dwelley was definitely on the rise. But he definitely, unfortunately, kind of went the wrong direction. So, interesting to say the least. So I do think, though, tight end, even if Brock Wright is signed, I do think there is a world that exists that the 49ers could still go tight end, maybe later in the draft as well. So we shall see. Michael says, I don't have much faith in Latu and Willis is a liability as a blocker, and it showed in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, that's a hard spot. That's really a hard spot to put a rookie tight end that hasn't played all that much this year. I'm going to give Willis the benefit of the doubt, because Willis did show some definite promise as a blocker in training camp. But that's a tough spot to be in. To have to go in at the end of the game in the Super Bowl, that's brutal. That's brutal as a rookie, and you've barely played all year. But I definitely understand the thought process. I'm gonna give Willis a little bit of the benefit of the doubt on that one, just because that's a tough spot to be in. Obviously, you don't want to see that penalty happen, but it definitely is. It's definitely an interesting situation. With Shanny, system tight end only for blocking unless he remembers he has Kittle. He does have Kittle, who can be a obvious big time threat in the passing game. It just has to get his number called. That's all. And this is a good point. This is a good point by William. He says Niners are competing with the Lions, so maybe they might try to keep Brock away from us. We shall see. I do think that's a good point. And if you really think about it, the offer sheet that he signed was a little bit under $3 million. So the 49ers bump it up to $4 million. They span it over 3 years. Maybe that's enough of a value where the Lions are like, nah, you can't have him. You can't have our guy. What are you thinking here, pal? So that could be a scenario for sure. But we'll see. They have 5 days now. They have 5 days to match. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. To be honest, like it does when you first see it and you see the 3 years, 12, you're like, oh, it's pretty quality contract for a tight end too. And you're like, well, it's only 1 million more than he was making currently, and it's just times that by 3 years. Yeah, maybe there is a chance the Lions do say, you know what, we don't want him to go to an NFC opponent. Stay over here on this side. So we shall see. We shall see. So I'm just going to open it up. I'm going to open it up. If you guys have any questions, comments, doesn't have to be anything related to the tight end. Could be whatever you want. Feel free to drop it in the chat. Donald says, is Brock a good blocker? Yes, he is. He is a definitely quality blocker. He's been someone that's been on my radar since he was an undrafted free agent. You know, you guys know that I play a lot of Dynasty, and I take my Dynasty and I run it like I'm running a real team, which sounds ridiculous. But, hey, it's what I do. And so Brock's been a guy that I've kind of had my eye on as like a potential emerging candidate at tight end, someone you can get for cheap. And if he ever got the opportunity, I think he would be able to produce. He hasn't really gotten the opportunities. But he's definitely used as a blocker. And I do think that he can fit in for sure. I saw a Jaguars fan pop in here. I don't know if he's still in here. Says, from a Jags fan, what are y'all's opinion on Eric Armstead when healthy? Well, when Eric Armstead is healthy, he's a phenomenal defensive tackle. So you're getting a guy who can do it in the run game, a guy who can rush the passer, playing out of the 3 tech. He's pretty solid. He does have the ability to play out on the edge if that is required of him. One of his best seasons came on the edge. I think he had like 11 sacks in 2019, and all that good stuff. But when healthy, I mean, you got a good player for sure. But I think, that's just it. That's just when he's available, he contributes. I think the 49ers defense felt his loss a little bit. But I think, hey, 49ers are ready to move on. And that's what they did. That's what they did. Are we going after another cornerback, Xavier Howard? I think Xavier Howard is a phenomenal option. If I had to guess on when he would sign, I think he's going to wait until after the draft. That's my gut feeling, is that I think he'll probably take a look at what's available, what's out there. I think we're at the point of, like, obviously free agency is basically over, even though players are still getting signed. We saw Hassan Reddick get traded today. So Hassan Reddick goes from the Eagles to the Jets. So Reddick is out of the NFC. But I think we are at a stage in free agency where, like, the rookie, the veterans that are, definitely on the tail end of their career could absolutely just wait till the draft is over, see what teams still require the services, then maybe show up around OTAs or training camp. I think Howard could be one of those guys. But I definitely think the 49ers should be interested in him. They did get Isaac Yiadom. So, hey, maybe they get into OTAs and they're like, we can add some competition at the cornerback spot. See how it goes. Definitely see how it goes. Daniel says the same comment recycled. Don't know how to draft, but yes, the roster has been good and competitive. Yeah, I agree. It's like the same thing that I say. You hear a lot of the discourse around the 49ers and, like, the offensive line is like, oh, the 49ers don't value offensive line. And it's like, I've even caught myself saying that. And then I'm like, that's not true. Like, I even have to, like, stop myself. It's like, they do value offensive line. They have drafted an offensive lineman in the top 10. They've traded for multiple offensive linemen. They had the highest paid center in free agency 1 year. Then they go get Alex Mack not too shortly after that. They have drafted offensive linemen in the second round. So it feels good to say, like, you feel it, like, oh, the 49ers don't value offensive line. That's not true. That's not true, because when you look at the moves that they've made, they've clearly invested. They've clearly made moves, whether it's trade, draft, whatever it is, they have done it. It might not have led to the success that maybe some have anticipated, but they definitely value offensive line, and they have poured resources into their O-line. So I've caught myself saying that, and because it's not true. Like, it's objectively not true. It can feel like that just when, you maybe see the O-line and you're like, oh, McKivitz, Brendel, revolving door at right guard, kind of a thing. But in all honesty, they have valued offensive line, and it's just, I don't think it's bared the fruit that many have wanted to see, but they do value offensive line, and they do pour assets into it. So I think the same thing applies to this. Don't know how to draft. They drafted Warner, they drafted Kittle, They drafted Greenlaw. They drafted DJ Jones. They drafted Hufanga. They drafted Diamador Lenore. They drafted who else? Aiyuk, Debo, Bosa. Who else? You had undrafted free agents, Emmanuel Mosley. You had, Jordan Mason shows promise. Elijah Mitchell's a 6th rounder. Jaan Jennings is a 7th rounder. Kendrick Bourne was an undrafted free agent. I'm just trying to just rattle just the first names that pop into my brain. Jair Brown looks like he'll be a quality player. So for every hit, you have your Reuben Fosters, your Solomon Thomases, your what's his name? Joe, was it Joe Thomas? No, that's not his name. Joe Williams. Joe Williams, your CJ Beathard's. The draft is so hit or miss. It is so hit or miss. Trey Lance. They drafted Trey Lance. TDP, Trey Sermon. So again, for Purdy, good call on the Purdy. They didn't draft AJ Jenkins. They didn't draft. That was Trent Baalke. That was good old Trent Baalke. That was not this regime. But again, I think when you look at the picks, I think you can understand the logic. I think that's part of it. It's like you can understand the logic. If you can understand the logic, it just unfortunately didn't work out with the individual player. All right, fine. The 49ers traded up to 3. They go get Trey Lance, right? The logic was there. They wanted a guy. They were willing to pay for it. And in this generational quarterback draft, they wanted one. And guess what? They all stink. So can we fault them for really missing on Trey Lance? Everyone missed. Zach Wilson, bust. Trey Lance, bust. Justin Fields, bust. Mac Williams, bust. At least as it currently stands right now. So, and, Trevor Lawrence is, I think, a good quarterback. He's not great by any stretch of the imagination. I do think he's good. So, again, it's easy to just say they stink at drafting. They don't value offensive line. But when you really think about it, it's like, that's not true. It's not true. And it's just a reminder how difficult it is to draft. Right? It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And there's a lot of factors that I think go into why things don't land. Is there a chance that running back Elijah Mitchell could be traded? I would assume so. I would say he's going into a contract year. It could definitely be an option. I do expect the 49ers to draft another running back this year. I just really think what the 49ers are going to do in the draft is significantly different than what fans think they're going to do or want them to do. I've been trying to say it gently for probably the past 2 weeks, but I'm starting to just get very definitive with it. I don't know if they're going offensive line in the first round. And I know that hurts a lot of people's feelings to hear that, but it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me unless they trade up. You want J.C. Latham, you're going to have to trade up. You want Troy Fautanu, you're going to have to trade up. And the guys that could be available there at 31, I don't know if you want them this year. because they're probably not going to play. And I don't want a 31st overall pick in a win now window not to play. I need my 31st pick to play. So that's why I'm thinking defensive tackle. I'm thinking potential edge. I'm thinking cornerback. Hell, dark horse safety. Every other position other than offensive line. I really think that if they stay at 31, I don't think offensive line will be it. At least from the logic of you want someone to start right away and be an impact. There are only 6 to 7 padded practices in training camp. One of the biggest jumps is on the offensive line from college to the NFL. And there is no guarantee that a guy can come in on 6 to 7 padded practices who is a developmental prospect in some sense is going to beat out Colton McKivitz. And I know that doesn't compute with a lot of people. They're like, well, Colton isn't good. He's not a good player. He shouldn't be starting. I think the 49ers fundamentally disagree with that thought process. That doesn't mean that Colton is the best right tackle. That doesn't mean that Colton is, the future right tackle for the next 5 years. It just means that in his first full year as a starter, he was serviceable. Was he the best? No. Was he high up there in sacks given up? Sure. And pressures given up? Absolutely. But his pay matches. It's not like he's getting paid a ton of money to be that way. So again, I'm pretty adamant about the fact that I still don't love the idea. Give me all the offensive linemen you can get. That's literally my thing. But if I'm looking at this and how to build out the San Francisco 49ers and how I want them to win this next year, I don't know if offensive tackle's the ticket at 31. I just really don't. There are some quality prospects that could be available, but there's no guarantee that they're starting. There's no guarantee, and I just don't want to take someone in the 31 who won't contribute. So that's why defensive tackle, cornerback, defense, more defense could be on the docket for pick 31. So I've been quietly saying it. I'm getting louder and louder with it. I've been quietly saying it. I'm getting louder and louder with it. Start changing your thought process. Doesn't mean we're not going to do our homework and try to find someone at 31 who could be a viable option. It just means be prepared for a different position to be taken. That's why I'm like, if you trade up into the top 15, oh yeah, you snatch an offensive lineman because you can snatch a day one starter, blue chip offensive lineman who's going to start for the next 10 years. It's hit or miss. It's hit or miss at 31 for sure. So we'll see. Could the Lions try to get Jaan Jennings from us in return? Like, hey, Niners got our tight end too, so let's go get Jennings. I mean, they could, but they would have to give us a second-round draft pick. They could absolutely do that, but they have to pay. They have to pay, and then they have to trade us their second-round draft pick. Would you guys be okay with that? Jaan Jennings is definitely, I would say, at the top of the list of probably unanimous fan favorites at the moment. He's cost effective. He's an absolute dog. All he does is convert third downs and score touchdowns. But you would have to give up. You would have to give him up. You would get a second round pick in return. Would you do that? It would be a late second if it was coming from the Detroit Lions. So I don't know. I don't think people would. I think people would prefer to keep JJ, even if it was just for 1 year. Because think of it like this: if you're paying Brandon Aiyuk, you're not paying Jaan Jennings. Like you can't pay Debo, Aiyuk, and Jennings. So this is likely going to be Jennings' last year. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind with Jennings. Just can't pay everyone. It's just one of those situations. Can't pay everyone. Let me see. I'm just looking at some of the questions that you guys have. I'm curious to in my opinion, does Kyle Shanahan take advantage of the offensive rules as other teams do? I would say that Kyle Shanahan is looking for every single advantage that he can get. I think that's one of the things that he does quite often. I think he's looking for all the advantages that he can get. Let's see. Going through some of the older comments. Oh, I appreciate this. Jeremy, he says, love your show, Brad. I watch everyone. I never watched anyone consistently, but you make it enjoyable with your content. Keep up the good stuff. SDS. Shout out, Jeremy. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for that. Let's see. Let's see. Going through some of the comments. All right, I think I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom and get after it. So they should trade up for Latham or Fautanu. Man, if you traded up for Fautanu, I would die. Like here I am. I'm setting myself up for heartbreak because I do this every time. I genuinely love Troy Fautanu. He is a certified draft son. He's inching closer to firstborn status in the draft son rankings. Firstborn is the highest you can go. Firstborn status, like, can't go any higher. Fautanu is inching closer and closer and closer to that. Latham is also just a freaking dog. Latham is pure power, plays on the right side, can definitely play guard as well. He might be better at a guard spot, just because of that power, and the power that you can put on the interior to dig out those three techs and down blocking and all that type of stuff. Might be more beneficial than playing on an island in pass protection. But Troy Fautanu, dog. I don't know if you guys saw Greg Cosell. Apparently, Greg Cosell did like a scouting report on Troy Fautanu. And there aren't too many people that I trust with like football evaluations. I've just gotten to the point where I just really trust myself. I really trust the way I see the game. I really trust the way that I evaluate. Um, so for me, I don't need outside opinion all that much. So any outside opinion that I'm getting it's almost more like validation. And Greg Cosell basically summarized Fautanu by saying Fautanu is a high-level O-line prospect who has the traits, skill set, and physical mindset to become a starter early in his career at either left tackle or offensive guard. I wouldn't be surprised if he develops into one of the better offensive linemen in the NFL relatively soon. I believe he can play left tackle at a high level in the NFL if allowed to start there and develop with coaching and experience. Fautanu's that dog, man. I'm telling you. It took me like 3 snaps. Again, it's just one of those stories. It's one of those draft stories that I like. I'm sitting in Lucas Oil Stadium. Offensive linemen, they're getting warmed up. And I did the thing where like I'm just watching these guys warm up. I'm scouting body type. I'm like, who looks like an athlete? And I saw Troy Fautanu. And I was like, I have not watched you before. So as they're getting ready to warm up, I pull up Troy Fautanu's tape. I actually did Graham Barton right before that. And then I did Troy Fautanu as I'm waiting for these guys to run their 40s. And I'm like, oh, I'm watching it. Like Rohan was sitting next to me. I'm like, dude, this dude's about to kill it. Like this dude's about to blow up the combine because you could just see on tape how good he was as a mover, how technically sound he was, all of it. And I was like, oh, this guy's gonna go crazy. And so like right then and there, I was like, yeah, this guy's dope. Then he goes out, proceeds to blow up the combine with his movement skills and his movement abilities. And I just watch more and I'm like, dude, this guy's so good. He's so good. He's not your typical offensive lineman. He's my typical offensive lineman. That's what I love about it. Like I absolutely have a archetype of players that I like. And he's one of them. Smaller, faster, more athletic, but technically sound. I don't care how big you are. Let me say it again for the people in the back. I do not care how big you are. Do you know what I care about? Can you play football? Outside of that, I don't give a shit. I don't give 2 flying effity F's about your measurables. I don't care because you can either play or you can't. Turn on the tape. Is he a baller? Is he not a baller? Can he survive? Can he not survive? Can he overcome? Can he not overcome? Can he win his way? Can he not win his way? Don't care, man. That's why, like, I get it. All Faushanu, those guys probably profile as like your prototypical offensive lineman. That those guys aren't my favorite O lineman in this class. It's the one that's the outlier. It's the one who doesn't fit the mold. That's the guy that I like. That's the guy that I think could be the best offensive lineman in this entire class. You know why? Because of the tape, baby. Because the tape doesn't lie. Sorry. I get very passionate this time of the year about draft evaluations. It's so funny. It's so funny how many people told me Aaron Donald was too small. Oh my god. Oh my god. Like, you guys don't know that I was out on these draft streets campaigning for Aaron Donald to be a great player. And you guys do not know how many times I will look how big he is. Do you see how big he is? You see that? I don't care. I don't care. Oh, Keenan Allen, he's too slow. He's too slow. He ran a 4.71 40. He's too slow. I don't care. Oh, Brian Burns, too skinny. Never going to survive in the NFL. Too thin, too skinny. I don't care. Oh, George Kittle. He's a fullback. He's a blocker. He'll never be successful in the NFL as a pass catcher. I think you get the vibes. I do not care. I do not care what you think these guys should be. That's how you miss on generational talent, is because you're too focused on trying to fit this guy into your perceived notion of what you think he should be, rather than just watching the player for what he is and then letting it play out. So anytime anyone hits me with those types of comments, I don't care, man. I don't care. Who are you talking to? Me? I don't care. Oh, Troy Fautano's too small. Bruh. Who are you talking to? Me? I don't care. Oh, wait. No, I don't care. I love draft season because we argue about the dumbest crap, and I love it. Bro, I've been doing this. God, I started doing draft of evals, what, 2011, 2010, 2011. Oh my gosh, dude. If I had a freaking nickel for every time someone told me someone wasn't going to be good because of because of a perceived measurable, oh, I would be a millionaire. And I would probably be the best general manager in all of football. Listen, y'all, NFL sleeping on the best evaluator in the game. I'm just saying. Your boy knows what he's doing. I'm just messing around. I get it wrong too. I've definitely missed. I'm not gonna sit here. I'm not gonna sit here and say like, "Oh yeah, I'm the best." No, I've missed. I've had some whiffs, but I've also had some generational hits. That I'm very proud of. Very, very proud of. That's not bad for someone sitting on their couch. I'll just say that. All the draft experts said, nah, not going to happen. I remember I got in an argument with one dude about Kittle. He blocked me. He was like, one of the top. It's like one of the top draft analysts at the time. He was like, Kittle, nah. He's like, Kittle, nah. Kittle's a fullback. I was so hyped on Kittle. Guys, I wish we experienced that together. I wish you experienced my Kittle derangement, because obviously Kittle's top 1, top 2 tight ends in the NFL. That was not the case, bro. That was that was the class with Evan Ingram, Njoku. I mean, that was a big time class of athletic tight ends, and Kittle was way down the list. And I'm like, Kittle's the one out of all these guys. Kittle's the one. And this guy was like, duh, he's a fullback. I said, you don't know ball, pal. He blocked me. I love draft season. I'm definitely starting to get into the hype of it, back into the passion of it, of like, because we get into that. It's that time of the year where people telling you like you're stupid for your draft evals, and I'm like, oh, bet, all right. That's why guys like Brian Burns are like, they're embedded into, like, because the amount of people who told me Brian Burns wasn't good because he was too skinny. That's why these draft sons, they develop beyond the draft. I'm here for it. That's what makes the draft fun. And then you just kind of you're interested in the game, you're interested in the league, you're interested in all of it. So do a mock draft so you can yell at me for it. I'm going to draft all the smallest, shortest prospects. I'll do one mock draft where it's just all guys under 6 feet tall, including offensive linemen. No, we'll do mock soon. Like I said, I would say starting next week, like I would say probably like 80% of the content that we're going to be doing is going to be draft. So like if you're down for draft stuff, get ready, because I'm just going to start it. As it gets closer and closer to the draft, the more and more and more we do, the more mocks, the more like. So I'm working, I'm scouting. It's time. It took me a while. To get through the draft, like the Super Bowl thing. But we're there. We're getting there. Aiyuk for Pat Surtain mock draft? You mean trade Aiyuk for Patrick Surtain in a mock draft? I honestly don't want to trade Brandon Aiyuk. And I like Surtain. I got to talk to Surtain. Surtain is cool as hell. I don't know. I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I do that. Like I would even be hesitant to trade. Like back in the day, I would be hesitant to trade BA for Brian Burns. And you guys know I have an unhealthy obsession with getting Brian Burns onto the San Francisco 49ers. So I don't know. I don't know if I do that. Kingsley Suamataia. I think I'm saying it correctly. Suamataia. Kingsley Suamataia. He's talented. He's definitely talented. He definitely has great movement abilities. He's good feet, good base, good pass protection, can play left, right. I think he needs a little work in the run game. But he's intriguing. He's intriguing as a young prospect. He's definitely intriguing. But I don't know if he starts. He could, but I don't know if he does. We need to draft a linebacker that is like the next Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. Are you saying like from an archetype standpoint, like he needs to be a thumper, like a downhill thumper? Because I would say that Willis and Bowman, I think Willis would be fine. I think Willis and Bowman were perfect for their era. I think it would be interesting to see those guys play in this era. Obviously, they would adapt their play style to the era that it is. But God, they were tailor made for for coming downhill and punching you in the face. They are so good at that. They're so good at that. They were phenomenal. They were phenomenal. Have I watched any more of JPJ? ML says it's unlikely it's unlikely, like meaning he'll fall out of the top 25. Is that what the thing is? So I've watched 2 full games now of Jackson Power Johnson. Best trait is his freaking power. Dude, literally, it's almost hilarious. He will sometimes just throw his shoulder. Like he'll literally just be, and he'll just, like he just throws his shoulder into guys and they go flying. I don't know where it comes from. Like he has a pretty kind of stocky, like I said, he's got no neck. He's got kind of like a pretty stocky body. But the dude, the second he drops his shoulder into you, these guys go flying. And so he is powerful. Power, like if you're running gap scheme, if you're trapping and you're pulling, this guy might be perfect center for you because he's going to be able to make sure there's no A gap penetration. He moves bodies out the way. He's a mauler. He is powerful. I wouldn't consider him in what I have seen so far as a technician. And so my questions become, I think I watched him at the Senior Bowl as well. There's a couple guys that like I watched the Senior Bowl and I'm like, I think it was JPJ and Rosengarten who looked better at the Senior Bowl than I've watched on tape. So like JPJ looked fantastic at the Senior Bowl. Hit JPJ versus Michael Hall in one-on-ones. I was like, damn, JPJ. I didn't know you could pass block like that. And Michael Hall is a guy that I've done some work on. He's very athletic defensive tackle. He's big, he's quick, he's fast, he's got moves. And JPJ handled him in one-on-one. So I'm like, damn. I'm trying to figure it out because what I see on tape with JPJ so far is I don't see super technical. I see a guy who's powerful, knows he's powerful, and wins with power at that level. My question is, what happens when you go up against a defensive tackle who has equal power, equal speed, and the technique? Does he have the technique to counterbalance that? That's what I'm looking for right now with him. With him, it's just like I'm really trying to watch the technique. How crisp is his technique? Seems a little wonky at times. Like I said, I think he is so powerful that he will literally just sometimes like shoulder check dudes. And I don't think you can get away with that in the NFL. Maybe he can. Maybe it will translate. But he definitely reminds me of more of like a Creed Humphrey type. So I like him. I like what I see. He's definitely more gap scheme for me. I would say this. He doesn't look like my archetype type of center, but like I'm honest about, like, I'm looking for speed, technique, quickness. I prefer that over power, because I think the first step, quickness, the technique, and all of that can neutralize speed and power, whereas power can struggle with speed because they don't have the technical ability to, and the requisite speed to manage it. So, but like I said, he did really good against Hall. So I'm still working on my JPJ eval. I see the power. He definitely fits a gap scheme mold, trying to figure out if he would really work in an outside zone where he has to cut off backside linebackers and all those different types of things. I definitely think he's good. I'm not saying he's bad. I also have a very specific like archetype of player that I'm after. So I want to do one more game on JPJ before I solidify. But at the bottom round of bottom round one prospect, I see it. I definitely see it. But I do think there are some things that I do question and want to see a little bit more. Just want to see a little bit more from a technical side of things. Because like I think I've talked about this before. It's so much harder to teach technique than it is to teach the other things. You know what I mean? The technical aspect of playing offensive line is much more challenging to learn. And you can counterbalance power with technique. So I think I told you guys, I was like, dude, if I could get 5 Troy Fautanus, be the best offensive line in football. From left tackle all the way down, like I would take an offensive line all under 6'4". If they fit the mold of the offensive line that I'm looking for, I would. I have a dream that you move away from the large, lumbering, powerful offensive lineman and you go finesse. You go more finesse, and I think you could finesse the crap out of some of these defensive linemen. That's just my theory. I'm galaxy braining like offensive line in the future. I think offensive line could like evolve into more athletes, and all those different types of things. So it's kind of like where my head's at. Doesn't mean that he's not going to be good. I want to make that abundantly clear. That doesn't mean he's not going to be good. Doesn't mean I think like, oh, like, meh. No. He's got the power, and that's huge. And he can move well enough. We've seen him in space. Dude's a brick house. But I like Barton intrigues me more. Barton's technical acumen intrigues me more. His speed, those types of things. But we'll see when it's all said and done. And I still got more tape study to do. So we shall see. We shall see. I haven't really gotten that much into the interior offensive line. Like I said, I've been just trying to grind through these tackles. There's so many of them. I've been watching a lot of film lately. It's a lot. It's a lot. But like I said, I like what I see from JPJ. Definitely, I would say he's probably got more power than Brendel. I would say Brendel moves a little bit better. And I think, again, in zone, but it also depends. What are the 49ers run? What are the 49ers running over there? Are they running more gap scheme, or are they running more outside zone? If they want to get back to outside zone, mid zones, and those types of things, then you need some speed. You need agility. You need guys who can move. If you want to run gap scheme, you're running trap, you're running counter tray, then you need some power. You need to be able to dig these defensive tackles out. Can't give up penetration, can't do those types of things. So that's why there's two different styles of offensive line. But again, it's like, can you find the guy who can do both? Troy Fautanu, who can do both. He's a dog. He's an absolute freaking dog. I wish I could just talk about Troy Fautanu all the time. But it's a good time. I'm late to the party with the draft stuff. I know it. I know I am. I know I'm late, but I'm trying to catch up. What was I'm curious, how big was Jesse Sapolu? I don't feel like Jesse Sapolu was all that big. Damn. They got Jesse Sapolu listed at 6'4", 271. Whoo! Jesse Sapolu would be getting murdered in these draft streets coming into the draft. 6'4". I see another spot where he's listed 278. He would be getting cooked. Jesse Sapolu will be getting cooked in these draft streets. 6'4", 270, 278. Oh my gosh. I can see draft Twitter right now saying Jesse Sapolu ain't it. I mean, I guess to be fair, he was selected in the 17th round of the USFL draft in 1983. The 17th round of the USFL draft. That's crazy. And he was selected in the 11th round of the 1983 NFL draft. That's crazy. 11th round. That's nuts. That's nuts. So, wide receiver, though, I think the 49ers, this is what I think the 49ers are going to do. I think they're going to take defensive tackle earlier than people expect. I think they're going to take offensive line later than people are going to expect. I think they're going to take a running back within the first 4 rounds. I think wide receiver also could definitely be an option in the 3rd through 4th rounds. Cornerback as well. I think they could, if they don't, I think they could go cornerback early too. I think 31 right now, if we could take a peek inside to some of these draft meetings, they could very well be talking about interior defensive line and cornerback, because I think there's going to be some decent cornerbacks that slide out. So that definitely could be an option. Definitely could be an option. So we'll see. But I got a lot of homework to do. Got a lot of homework to do, man. Like, the draft process is challenging just because it's time consuming. Like, if you really want to do it the right way, and you want to pour over the tape, you're watching a minimum 3 to 4 games of each prospect, varying levels of competition. You're cross-referencing it against workouts, like the combine or pro days, Senior Bowl. I got a lot of work to do. So I'm just vibing today on Friday. Damn, it's already almost 6 o'clock. What the hell, man? So I'm probably going to take the weekend. I think that's kind of the schedule. I need some me time over the weekend, but when we get back, Monday's April 1st. Be careful, guys. Be careful. It is a troll. It's a Trolls Christmas on April 1st. So expect Brandon Aiyuk trade posts. Expect Brandon Aiyuk trade posts, guys. Be very careful. April Fools is on Monday. Oh, and you've seen the trolls. Trolls love free agency. They love April Fools. So there's going to be. Remember when George Kittle? What did he say? He said he got traded to the Jags. I think his April Fools was he got traded to the Jags. That was one of the wildest April Fools I think I ever seen. I've never seen a player pretend to get traded. I freaking love George, man. Bro, who does that though? Like, for real. Like, who's a star player in the NFL and scares the life out of the entire football world? It's like, I just got traded to the Jags. We out, Duval. So good luck. Good luck on Monday. There's going to be a lot of fake trades and all kinds of crazy stuff. But hopefully you guys enjoy your weekend. And we'll get after it next week. Next week is full-blown draft season. Let's go. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully you have a great rest of your weekend. Stay safe. And I will see you guys on Monday. Later. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see